Hello again from Los Angeles. As promised, wanted just to give you a feel of where we are. Sorry about the lighting. Today I'm doing two wines, and there's absolutely no reason why these two have to be together in terms of they have no relationship to each other. One is a Barbaresco Rabaja from Bruno, Rocca, 2008, and the other one is a Cabernet. We are in California after a Relic Artefact Cabernet, the top of the line from 2015. So the reason we're doing both of these is because today I'm having dinner with a really good friend I don't get to see very often, and he's big on sort of Cabernets and Bordeaux's and some of these bigger wines. And when we get together, usually I try to try something different with him. We've had some Spanish wine, Chateauneuf, Hermitage, things that he's not as necessarily as familiar with. So I figured we'd continue on this trend, and the Barbaresco is for that. So something different, something a little bit more mature. It's a very different feel from like a big Cabernet or something of the sort. And so so we're gonna do that now. Given he likes Cabernet so much, I figured, you know what, let's also stick a Cabernet in there. We can maybe drink half of each bottle. We don't have to finish them both. And this is one of my favorite Cabernets, as you guys know. And it's a Cabernet that he's not familiar with. And so I think this Relic Artefact really is a great representative of what California can make in terms of great Cabernets. So here we are. This is also the other advantage is in the glass, you really can't tell these guys apart because of the coloring. It's going to be very hard for you to say. This is the Barbaresco. It's a little lighter. You can see through. It's got a little bit of a brown evolved tint to it. And this is the Cabernet. It's just dense, solid, sort of deep red, and you can tell that's really what it is. On the Barbaresco, this is just really, and I know we've talked about it before, at some point in age, Barbaresco's, Nebbiolo starts really feeling like a Pinot in terms of its subtlety, its refinement, and its earthiness. So let's see what we have there here. On the nose, there's a little bit of menthol, which is still pretty strong in a 14-year-old bottle. These Rabajas have a tendency to be really very age-worthy. We had one together from Produttore Barbaresco, a Reserva Rabaja. Rabaja is a vineyard that these guys own, the Rocca family. They bought like about 70 years ago. This is a family that's been making wine for 200 years, or being established in Barbaresco for 200 years with all sorts of farming, including wine, and they've really came into their own in the last, I would say, 3 generations. And so really a well-known family. It's still a family business. They have several vineyards, cru vineyards. Rabaja is one of them, and they have Cura, and they make Rabaja, Barbaresco and Rabaja Reserva, which is some of the oldest vines, and it's aged even longer in barrel. This, as it is, I think, is aged 2.5 years in barrel. And so these wines can really last literally a lifetime, but still we have to enjoy them. It's still a little bit reticent on the nose, but it's opening up, and I'm starting to get the sort of earthiness and the cherry really, the kind of a cherry, a little bit of hard candy, cherry, and it's really still opening up. I mean, I opened these a couple hours ago, but I think they're going to evolve quite a bit. Great acidity, and again, this is another common trait with the Burgundy, that acidity you have with the Barolos and Barbarescos that makes them such great food wine, whether it's Italian or other food, and it's still very much there. This acidity, cherry, candy, a little bit of bitterness, more like a chocolate bitterness, not really a negative, sort of bad bitterness. The tannins are there also, really coats the back of the mouth. And the finish is quite long. I mean, this is a wine that stays with you. Um, Not a brutal wine, but it's got a little bit of a personality. You know, it's a little bit prickly. It's got the tannins, got the cherry sort of tartness. It's more on the tart and earthy sort of side of things as opposed to just exuberant fruit, which is kind of what you expect from an older Barbaresco. I'm gonna have to finish this. Now this Relic, we've had several artifacts together. I think we've had the 2010, if I remember correctly. We've had the 2013. All amazing wines. These wines, each vintage seems to get better than the one before. This is 100% Cabernet from Cabernet Ranch, unfined, unfiltered. Cabernet Ranch is in Calistoga, right across the street basically from ASL Vineyard. So we're talking really rarefied company there. They've been making Artefact for a long time. It was different sources before though, and it used to be a little bit. It used to have a little bit of Syrah in it back before 2009, 2010. It was a little bit more traditional that way. This is 100% Cabernet, and it's a wine that's really very age-worthy. But I figured I have other bottles. We can hold on to them, and then and see what we have right now. 2015 was a great year, as you know. On the nose, this is really the sort of the blackberry, blackcurrant, still really primarily fruit. Just really, and you can tell the alcohol, you know, it's there. Let's see what we have here. This is a 15.2% alcohol. I mean, the Barbaresco is 14.5, so it wasn't really a it was not a low alcohol wine. This is such a nice blend of the fruit and the little bit of the sort of bittersweetness from dark chocolate, and a very, very velvety tannins. I mean, you feel that your tongue is being sort of, I don't know, caressed with some really soft material. It's just an incredible finish on the tongue, on the back of the tongue, you know, in terms of the tannins. It's still opening up. Every whiff you smell something a little bit new. Like definitely the fruit though, primarily. But the spiciness and the sort of leatheriness is gonna come through, I think, a little bit later on tonight. To me, what really jumps out is the intensity of the fruit and the just fineness of the tannins, you know, combined. It's just kind of a very, very sort of delectable wine. In fact, if we have new comments during dinner, we'll add them to the commentary. Cheers, and see you soon.